What's up, everybody? I am here once again with my good friend Mike Fisher from Codify, and we're here to give a much too early preview of the NL and AL Cy Young Awards for 2024. But before we get into this, hit subscribe. You know you want to, because we're going to be doing this forever and ever. Amen. And you're never going to want to miss all these great conversations, videos, interviews, and all that jazz. So hit subscribe. And without further ado, let's get into it. What do we get? We have the FanDuel odds just posted. The two favorites, we have Gerrit Cole at, what is it, plus 550, and Spencer Strider at plus 500, and then a whole slew of others. Number one, are these favorites correct in your mind? Do you view Strider and Cole as the favorites for the Cy Young Awards in their respective leagues?
Well, I think we learned from last year not to bet against Cole. Everybody pretty much did until right up to the end when it was obvious that he had, in spring, you could tell he kind of done some things to get rid of those home runs. You know, look, I'm a big Kevin Gausman fan, so I'm liking that 700, and I will be putting some money down on that. Maybe if I was the kind of person that bet on my players, which I'm not necessarily. That's a good bet. Do you say Cole's the favorite? Hey, you're betting on your players to win. Hi, this is Pete Rose.
Yeah, exactly.
I got some advice for you. Don't bet on your guys to win. Strider, on the other hand, I don't know if you want to do AL then NL separately.
Well, let's start with AL. You pretty much you're cool with Cole being the favorite potentially, or
who are you going to say? Now, I would love to see a team. I would love to see FanDuel, who I'm sure is watching this. How about a bet where you pick the team that the winner is on? Because then I'm looking at like the Mariners. I'm like, ooh, what are you going to give me for the Mariners?
You're stealing my thunder for a later point. No, I mean, kind of, yeah, but not really. Like I'm with you. I am obsessed with the Mariners starting pitching. I think they've got a number of opportunities to win. And I agree with you. Although, you know, as we're recording this, we don't know where Yamamoto is going to land, and the Yankees are one of the places. So if you were going to say the Yankees, and then you have Cole, Rodon, and Yamamoto, almost all the time you have the defending Cy Young Award winner as the favorite for the next year. Like just what happens.
Right.
And Cole has been objectively for years and years, a perennial Cy Young Award winner, could win any given year, other than the year before last. And you know, I have no problem with him being the favorite. Plus 550 seems reasonable to me. If you're looking at betting Gerrit Cole, I think that's pretty good odds.
Right. Sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
And it's hard to really wind up and say, you know, Dylan Cease should have better odds or whatever. I mean, he doesn't. So I don't know who you're going to say is better. Gausman and maybe yeah. I don't think I'd be saying anybody else.
No,
as a favorite.
Right. Yeah. I think the better discussion comes later, which we'll talk about, like who are the outside chances, or who else would you pick? That's different. But I think they got it right with Cole. Now, switching to the NL, we have Strider at plus 500, then Wheeler at plus 750 right now. What do you think about that?
I know you love Strider. You know, I love Strider. He's got to stop giving up runs. This isn't 1980. You can't. You know, he probably would have won the Cy Young in 1980 with those numbers. Struck a bunch of guys out and win 20. That's good enough, but not anymore. Obviously, he has what it takes. He's got to change his approach somehow and stop walking guys the way he is and all that. So I totally know he has it in him. I don't know if he'll change his approach to do it, to get the run prevention down. You know, when you watch him, if you watch a certain amount of his game, like if you turned him on for an inning, you're like, that's the best pitcher in the world. You know, but then you watch a game or two games, you're like, well, you know, he struck out 10 guys and he gave up 3 runs. And it's like, you know, and he pitched 7 innings. That's not good enough. If you're doing that every time out, which is crazy, but true.
Yeah. And as somebody that's watched all of Strider's outings, it's always like one thing. It seems to be like he'll have a dominant game of like 12 Ks through 5. And then all of a sudden, a 3-run bomb. And, you know, bombs you can't totally control, but you had mentioned something when you were talking about Gerrit Cole, how he reduced his home run rate. What did you see from him in doing that? Is that something that maybe Strider can be cued in on? Like, hey, you may want to stop throwing, you know, over reliance on your fastball because it's good, but hitters are going to guess fastball and they may tag you every once in a while.
Right. It's a funny thing. Walks and home runs just hand in hand, of guys trying to avoid home runs, but then they're walking three guys. I mean, he walked three guys, was it 3 something per 9 or whatever, which just, if you're Blake Snell, I guess you can get away with that. But, maybe he ought to look at that and see like where can I go closer to the zone and, be okay with giving up some singles and not worry about so many strikeouts, but keep the ball in the yard. There are spots.
Yeah, that's a good point. Although I also think to some extent, and this is just me almost thinking out loud, wishful thinking maybe, with the Braves offense the way it was, he's tasked with not giving up monster innings. So he doesn't want to give it. He doesn't want the he's okay with an occasional 3-run homer, I guess, because they're probably going to win anyway. He can't have the monster innings and maybe has less of a luxury. I don't know than Snell did. I have no idea.
I wish I had the tweet up. Didn't I show that his numbers against the lesser teams were crap?
Yes.
And, when I was growing up, I remember watching, saw Jack Morris win that World Series at 10 inning, like maybe, I don't know what the best game ever was. We say Kerry Wood and all that, but like, I don't know, man, 10 innings in a World Series to win. It put him in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
It put him in the Hall of Fame. Cause if you look at the rest of his career, you're like, I don't know. That's a Hall of Fame career, but that game put him in. But anyway, back then was that whole thing of like, well, Jack Morrison put up good numbers because he was one of those guys that just pitched to the score. And if it was 4-0, he knew he could give up a couple runs. This day and age, and I'm not saying Strider's not like that, but I'm just saying in this day and age, you're costing yourself a lot of money if you're doing that. So, I don't know. I don't know that we see that as much. And I have to say, it felt like BS most of the time. But when I watched Strider, it was like, well, it sure seems like he's kind of doing that a little bit. And he sure doesn't seem to be getting up for the bad teams, which is weird.
Yeah. And does he then chuck in a few more changeups to at least make it tougher to sit on that fastball, which it's obviously a great pitch. Your charts show it. Yeah. Your map show, everything shows it. Like it's obvious.
Eyeballs.
But right. Your eyeballs tell you. But it also says like hitters are smart and they're going to say, I am swinging at everything as if it's a fastball. And if I get it, it's going out. If I don't, all right, I'm K'ing. And does just randomness of having another pitch help him?
Absolutely. I hope to see that it, move it around a bit and just be a little bit more unpredictable. It's a great problem to have, having an arm like that. But if you're talking about a Cy Young award and not just winning 20 games, which he can do for the Braves with the way he did, he did it. And if you're talking about a Cy Young, you got to make some changes. You can't walk in there with a 3.5 ERA and win the Cy Young anymore. So, where does that come from? That's walks and homers. I mean, they're not hitting the ball as often, but when they do, you make sure that nobody's on base.
And how much of that is random? Like, again, you could have a crappy year just by just stringing together some lucky home runs. I hate to say it's luck, but that is a thing. Like I look at strikeouts. I look at how dominant a pitcher is. He's got all the markings of it, but then the ERA definitely was not a Cy Young caliber ERA.
Right. I mean, the fundamentals are all there. And like, if we look at Cole from 22, what were you saying about him? I wasn't necessarily the walks as much, but like, those home runs got to stop. You got to stop. You're giving up too many runs. And I mean, he's got it in him. There's no doubt. We'll just have to see.
Was Cole better location last year, or was it like, what did you see necessarily?
I wish I had that up, but I definitely saw kind of some tuning to, let's just go here. Let's stop kind of finessing over here and here. And he found that formula. And I mean, if you look at where the home runs were that hit off Cole, I mean, he knows you could pretty easily imagine he was like going into 2023 going, this is number one. We have to get rid of the home runs. And so how do I do that? And he has the skill to do it. So,
and the thing I like about both these guys and why I think they're, do I have Strider as the favorite? I think he's got probably the best pure stuff. And who else would be the favorite? but I think they're both guys who always try to get better and who look at the game scientifically. So I could imagine Strider using Cole's example and saying, well, what am I going to do? It's an obvious problem. He's not blind to it. What am I going to do to help this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who else I'd say. The other guys up there with the odds, I mean, Zack Wheeler would be no shock to see him do it. I know I'm a little bit biased, but I love Logan Webb, and I just love seeing, that we can give a Cy Young first place vote and a second place overall to a guy that wins 12 games now, where in the past, like, there's no way that would have happened. So I think, the voters can start to recognize, like, and he does strike out more guys than we all think, but damn, the ground balls are just phenomenal. And Logan Webb is always, I'm not saying the other guys aren't, but I mean, I can testify, like, his drive to get better and better and better when he's already so good. It's just overwhelming. So
yeah, and so let's get to that. So who would you pick given the current odds you have? We have the favorites and we're comfortable with them. I think you can also make an argument favorite wise. I agree. Logan Webb, looking at Corbin Burns, who's a perennial threat to win and has, just a fantastic arsenal. He literally always can win a Cy Young. Zach Gallen, Max Fried, those are all guys. And then Senga was freaking outstanding. Like once he figured out the ball, he was virtually unhittable, and his Ghost Fork is virtually unhittable.
I don't know, man. I'm looking at the list and I'm sitting there looking at Aaron Nola at 1,800. And you know how Nola is just like, kind of like, either this is kind of a tread water year or I'm going to kick everybody's ass year. And I mean, 1,800. I mean, I'll take that. I'll take that one. Senga second half, 1,500. No, that's a good bet there.
I have Nola at 20. Is it? Am I wrong?
Oh, it may have refreshed. I grabbed these numbers.
I think he's
yesterday.
at even worse. 2,500.
Yeah. 25. Oh, yeah. Okay. So firm answer.
Yeah.
Firm answered. Yes.
Yeah, I think that jumped out at me as one of those where I thought, obviously Nola put it together at the end of the year and in the postseason. We all know what Nola can do. Is he really a plus 2,500? Is he 5 times less likely than Strider to win the Cy Young Award? Nola gets the innings, he does everything right.
Yeah, I'm all over that.
Yeah, and then we have Glasnow now entering at plus 2,500. I don't know that he'll get the innings, like he's never gotten the innings. So fool me 5 times, shame on me. He's got Cy Young stuff. Will he have the numbers at the end of the year? He's definitely, again, if he gets the innings, he will be a big contender and pitching in Dodger Stadium.
They put Glasnow's odds up?
Yeah, it's plus 25.
Oh, what are they?
Plus
25.
Yeah.
Oh.
That reaction was kind of mine too. Like I think it just popped on there. And again, he's a very attractive pitcher to everybody that understands pitching. Like, dude is just a horse.
Right. If he makes, I'm just saying, if he makes 30 starts, what are his odds? What would you give? What would you give?
Like,
right. It's 3 digits. Right. Yeah. So it's a question of health. So
yeah, that's exactly right. All right. Well, I'm going to go that and then we'll finish up the NL conversation, but let's go the AL. We'll keep it in the order that we had it. The AL, right. I know you love Gausman and so do I. And he is just, he's been very consistent. Every once in a while has that game like everybody does where, you have one clunker but the K's are there, the stuff is there, the swagger's there, the team is there. That's a pretty good pick. Plus 700 seems reasonable to me on that. You know how much number one, Pablo Lopez, I see is getting some attention and he should. Pablo's got great stuff. I love, give me George Kirby or Tarek Skubal.
Skubal's a good pick at that number. What is it? What is it now? You have it up?
It's plus 1,800.
Yeah, I would do that.
Like the Tigers have low key really good pitching, and he is really good. Absolutely filthy. And you may, I trust us out there. I think you may be able to snap that one up. as we're not saying he's going to win, but we're saying he can win. And
at 1,800,
yeah, right.
jump
It's
on
not.
it.
Yeah, exactly. That seems reasonable. I just noticed how many times I was featuring him and how filthy his stuff is, and pretty consistently good. So, yeah, I'm looking at. I love Kirby just because he has really good stuff. Can touch 99, but also is in the zone constantly. Will not run up walks, and
Love it.
yeah. And we're talking about the Mariners, whose philosophy is challenge people in the zone. And I agree with you. Like, if you're looking at a team for Cy Youngs, look at the Mariners. You have Castillo at plus 1,300, Kirby at plus 1,700. And then where is, Logan Gilbert is somewhere here, right? He's got to be.
He's right below Cease yesterday. He was 2,500 yesterday. I don't know where he went. But.
He's still plus 2,500. Yep.
But what I like about Kirby as a pick is just there's a guy that, like, you saw the success he had last year, and like it was in the zone. It's not like one of these guys who are like, I'm throwing a foot out of the zone, people are swinging, I'm putting up good numbers. And it's like eventually some, not all, but some batters will be able to adjust to that and stop swinging at that stuff. Kirby was in the zone already. What are you going to do about it? You have to learn how to hit that. That whole thing is not in there, baked in, where you're wondering if, like, remember when Bieber had a really good year, went into the playoffs, and the Yankees were like, we're just not going to swing at your curveball. Well, it wasn't in the zone because they didn't throw it in the zone. And so guess what happened? That's not going to happen with Kirby. So it's just something to think about.
Yeah, and that's actually why Bieber added the slider, more usage of the slider back then. He's like, they were giving up on. I talked to him right after that. It's like, they were giving up on my knuckle curve. I needed something else, and it was the slider. And yeah, he was right. It worked.
Right.
Yeah, like I definitely, I think Kirby's work ethic is there. To me, he just screams like a Cy Young winner. He screams at me as a Cy Young winner. I always thought of, I view him in the same class. And again, he's not Greg Maddux. His command is Greg Maddux. Like, his command is potentially better than Greg Maddux at a guy who throws mid to upper 90s. So, and with extra experience in the league now, knowing where to attack hitters, I kind of like that. I like him, and I like him and Skubal. I thought Cease also put it together a little bit last year. At the second half, I saw signs of the real Dylan Cease with his slider. And I'm going to throw out Cole Reagans, who I have an irrational love for because he just came over in that trade for Chapman and looked like the best pitcher on the planet.
I made a post about him yesterday. You probably didn't see it, but looking at the last 10 starts for every big league pitcher, he had more strikeouts than anybody in his last 10 starts. Like, he's not, no joke at all. I mean, and those are some impressive odds for a guy that, a lot of people don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I brought him up on some podcast yesterday. Like, I loved his stuff. I thought he looked like a real deal. I mean, he is a real deal. He had 101 last year, I believe. Yeah. In a start, like, and throws a wicked slider. He, like, don't think that was a fluke. Guys don't do that as a fluke. It wasn't like he was getting lucky. He was shoving.
Right.
So yeah, I would have him on my list. I think, and then Bradish is hard not to look at too, because I thought he had a really good year that didn't get a lot of focus on him. Right. And Gray Rod is another pitcher who I have a lot of respect for. And I think he's still a little bit away from being a Cy Young Award winner, but can he win one in his career? Yes, he can win one in his career.
Yeah, let's see where Bieber goes. It'll be interesting to see if a change of scenery is what he needs, So
the other thing I saw with Bieber is he went to Driveline, which they have a history, and I know them very well, of helping guys gain a couple of ticks on their fastball. And that was the one thing that Bieber needed. Like, Bieber's command is there. His way to attack hitters is there. Secondary stuff's there. If his fastball was back near where it was, that dude's an elite pitcher. And what do we have him at?
It was 3,000 yesterday. What is it now?
Yeah, so he's plus 3,000. So at plus 3,000 for a guy who is a legit Cy Young pitcher who's as good as anybody.
Yes,
I'm with you. I think that's another one. So we're sprinkling the money around a little bit on this.
It's the way to go on this, though.
It is. Yeah. And then we look smart too at the end of the year when we're holding the.
We picked 7 guys and one of them.
Yeah,
won.
Look. Yusei Kikuchi won the Cy Young Award.
Yeah.
So we're golden. Is there anybody deep down on the list? Tanner Bybee is jumping out at me at plus 18,000. Like
Right.
Tanner Bybee is a legit pitcher. Like he's a
Right.
poor man's Shane Bieber, or maybe a rich man's Shane Bieber, and he's 6 times the odds of Shane Bieber.
Right. Now, don't laugh. This is sincere. Remember how he was healthy. It's not a joke. Carlos Rodon. Like they're not even giving odds on him.
That's not a joke.
And
No.
if he walks in here healthy, it's like you didn't even have odds on him. You know,
I could not agree with you more because he was my pick over Cole last year as the best pitcher on the Yankees, but then was hurt for most of the year and
he
couldn't
was hurt
find
all
it.
year.
Yeah,
even when he came back, he could.
And you know that as somebody that works with Carlos Rodon. You have I told you I think he's perhaps the filthiest pitcher you work with. He shoves, he wants to prove himself, he's gonna be angry, and angry Carlos Rodon pretty much is just normal Carlos Rodon because that's how he pitches. He pitches he's a great dude, but pitches with a chip on his shoulder. I think he's being very overlooked here. And somebody should wake up and understand that Carlos Rodon is a legit, like a healthy Carlos Rodon is a legit Cy Young contender, without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not encouraging FanDuel to do it, but if they put odds on there, I mean, you might see some just ridiculous numbers there. Like,
how is he not above JP Sears?
I don't know.
Like, I like JP Sears, but Carlos Rodon's upside is in the top tier of pitchers.
Yeah, I mean, there's Nestor. Yesterday was at 20,000. I don't know if he's still around, but
yeah, Nestor is at 20,000.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they would give him, but I'd be jumping on that. It'd have 5 digits on it, and you have to take that.
Right. Is the second Carlos Rodon shows up on this and his odds are below those guys, I'm taking Carlos Rodon. I agree with you. That's a good guy. Everybody out there, remember, sprinkled some money on Carlos.
It's Glasnow-esque of like, what's the health? Because if the health is there, it's like, oh God, look out.
And he's going to be pissed the fuck off.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a year wasted, you know, and a lot of shit from, you know, he can take it, but there's a lot of shit from fans. It's like, dude, the guy was injured. Like, it's okay to blow your arm out and have Tommy John. Nobody gives you crap with that, but you hurt your back. Like, oh, come on. What's up with this guy? Like,
yeah, totally.
It's a severe injury, man.
Totally. So, and it took him a while. You saw signs of the velo coming back, but it still was down a little bit. He's a guy who can pitch in New York, no doubt about it. Like, he has the personality for it, and him rallying around last year, you know, how he felt he disappointed everybody.
He did.
He knows it. Like, he's trying to prove himself, and he's not one of those guys who shies from that. So, yes, second you see Rodon on there, it's worth a little bit. Yeah, it's worth a little bit.
Yeah,
totally.
If it's got 5 numbers on it, jump on it.
Yep. All right. So NL, we already talked about Logan Webb as a guy that, yes, at plus 900, that seems about, I mean, I'd have him maybe a little lower. So this is my worst overlooking of a guy last year when I was doing my Cy Young Award stuff, and I just had him too low. I admit that. Logan Webb had a great year last year and deserves all the props he can get. And I would definitely look at him as somebody that I'd look at as someone you might want to sprinkle something on.
Yeah, I was thrilled he came in second.
And he deserved
even though, absolutely. But even though the voting's evolved a lot, there was still like, are they going to respect what he did, and are they going to see it? But fans did, or the voters, did. Yeah. So there's only 30 of them. So.
Yep. Zach Gallen plus 1,200. To me, he at the beginning of the year looked like an obvious Cy Young Award winner. Like, he was really good. I thought he faded a little bit. I don't know if he just wore down some. Everybody deals with injuries. He might have had some injuries that just weren't enough for him to sit out, fought through them, looked fantastic. I was at that World Series game, and he was like, that was just pure legendary stuff. Like, he fought one of the greatest postseason pitchers of our time, Nate Eovaldi, and and fought him evenly or better. He had a no-hitter in that game. So is he somebody that you would consider?
Oh, you have to consider him. Last year, just watching him and just remembering him from the year before, how dominant he was. The hit prevention, that crazy streak he had. They're like, how many hits did he give up? 3 again? You know? Like, what's going on? And last year obviously was not quite that. So, there's so many things going on.
Yeah.
And I'm not 100% sure what it is with him. He like a lot of guys has some opportunity to attack differently, and he's got the talent. There's no doubt.
I'm looking at Nola as we talked about. So we're going back to that discussion. Nola at plus 2,500. Tyler Glass now, if he can come anywhere near qualifying a number of innings. So if he can be in the 165 range, 170, he's going to put up absurd numbers in Dodger Stadium. Eury,
what is go ahead. I'm glad you mentioned him because he was 4,000. He was 4,000 yesterday. I'm like, how many innings are they going to give him? Because
that's the whole thing. Yeah. You're talking about potentially the best pitcher on the planet, and I'm not afraid to say it. He's got the best stuff of any young pitcher in the major leagues currently. I would say that's him. He's got the size, he's got the attitude, he's got the command, he's got everything. The question is how many innings he's going to go, and that's it. Like, he's another guy like at plus 4,000. That's somebody I'm giving some attention to. I love the baby giraffe.
Oh gosh, yeah. Do we say Sonny Gray yet? What's he at?
We haven't. He's at plus 2,500.
He's just a guy I've watched Sonny Gray for, being an A's guy for, it feels like 30 years. I know it hasn't been that long, but just feels like he's been around forever. And me personally, I've kind of taken him for granted, but like last year was just phenomenal. And if you look at the numbers he was getting on some of his pitches, you're like, this is going to continue to translate and continue to work. So 2,500 seems like a good opportunity to me.
I love Sonny Gray as a pitcher. He's almost a little bit of a throwback in that he can do anything he wants with a baseball, spins it any way he wants to, can have variations of his sweeper and curveball and all that. And I've talked to him about that too. Like, he does view it that way. He's got almost like Yu Darvish in tinkering. He's just very, very smart as a pitcher, and in any given year, total Cy Young award potential. Senga, if Senga is anything like he was the second half of last year and can keep it going, my concern is part of the thing is if he had another pitcher alongside him, like a Yamamoto, I think that might even lift his game even further. But you don't overlook Kodai Senga and his stuff. No one's catching up to that ghost fork. They didn't show any signs of doing anything with it. He has more experience in the league. I know hitters have more experience against him, but I trust him to keep evolving a little bit too.
Yeah, it looks like a good bet at that number. I'd be on that for sure.
Yeah. Who else do we have here?
Luzardo. Again, don't want to be biased, but
I love Luzardo. Yeah,
love him. And that's what's it at now? Is it 3,000 yesterday?
3,000. Yep.
I mean, you watched him, especially toward the end of the year. Like, dang. And
he's got health
again.
Stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I watch his stuff, and he's got high whiff rates on his pitches. Knows what he's doing. Competitive. He's been that guy for a number of years for me. Obviously, I mean, like you see that obviously the same very smart dude too.
Oh, he's the one. He was the first guy. He's like, he gets his maps and he's looking at him and he's like, so, I see slider or whatever. Is there any way, because I throw multiple sliders, can we break that up? And I'm like, well, we can. You mean you do that on purpose? Because you couldn't totally tell when you look. There was some overlap.
Right.
Like, I put my finger like this, put my finger like this. And this is before we had Hawkeye, where you could see the spin axis and tell, like, oh shit, it is different. Like, you could tell, like, instead of guessing. And so he ended up at one point with 4 slider maps. Like, most guys were like, here's my fastball map against this guy. Here's my slider. Here's my curve. Here's my changeup. He'd be like, fastball, sinker, slider 1, slider 2, slider 3, slider 4. This guy's crazy. He's very cerebral, and just talent just oozing out of that guy. So
yeah, it's just a matter of putting it all together for one season. And if he does, he's another guy that clearly has Cy Young level stuff. Question, just has to be in the zone and not have those freakish outings where it just doesn't all go for him when it throws his ERA out of whack.
Kills me not to have Sandy there this year.
I know that does suck. It sucks for all those guys, but it's still a decent team when you have, they have some pitching.
They definitely do.
Who am I looking at here? And if Bobby Miller, I think it's too. I don't see that yet. He can potentially get there, but that's not where.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Hunter Green is another guy, obviously, who's got fantastic stuff. Has to limit the hard contact. Can he win a Cy Young in his career? Yes. Is next year the year? Don't know that I'm betting on that.
Haven't seen a sign of it yet.
Right. Yeah, me neither. Brandon Fought is another guy on there. Is obviously we saw what he can do. Is that a sign of more consistently being at that level, or is that, is that not where he is going to end up?
He was 17,000 yesterday. What's he at?
He is at a 17,000.
Okay. Wow. I mean, we watched him. You can see why you would be you'd be tempted. I mean, the guy's really good. So, but it's a long shot, but that's 17,000. So
right.
That's what you're getting. I mean, did we mention Peralta, Freddie Peralta?
No.
Yeah, because that's no joke, and it was 3,000 yesterday. So
it is 3,000, and that's a guy that clearly is very tough to hit and racks up strikeouts.
The only other guy I don't remember us saying that has good odds, and I may have just not heard you say, was Justin Steele.
Yeah, I didn't say him.
Yeah, I mean, people were screaming for most of the year that he's the Cy Young guy. Faded a little bit and all that, but that was a good year and didn't look like a fluke.
No, it didn't look like a fluke. The one thing that makes it seem fluky is he doesn't have outlandish fastball velo.
Right.
And it's very hard to see why he's successful until you realize that his fastball's cut. It's basically he's throwing a cutter. And he can make his fastball move various ways. Like, he's a pretty talented dude as far as commanding the zone and mixing it up.
Yeah.
At plus 1,500, I think that's about right though. Right. Like that's about where I got him.
It's reasonable. It's not oh my God, I'd go throw money down on that. Like if you have Senga, well, you said Senga moved. But if you had Senga and Steele, even odds, probably take Senga.
Yeah, and they're both plus 1,500.
Yeah, I'd probably put my money on Senga of the two, and that's no slight on Justin Steele. He's amazing.
And then we have Max Fried, who I haven't talked about, but probably deserves some discussion.
All right.
Healthy Max Fried is a perennial Cy Young contender. He just is. He knows how to pitch. He throws. His stuff is nasty. He's a pitcher. Yep. Is he a guy who could win a Cy Young in his career? Yep. Yes. And is he a guy who can win it next year? Probably, yeah. But I don't see why not, as long as he's healthy.
I don't see why not. Only one guy can win it. But, of the guys we mentioned, there's some guys who are like, like when you said Hunter Green or someone like, probably not next year. But Max Fried, would not be a shock. Would not. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess we're throwing around those names. Y'all take account of it. If there's anybody else that has any other ideas, leave them in the comments. We'll try to circle back at some later date. We'll do this as updates even during the season, probably, and just see what our thoughts are about how things are going with our picks. I remember early, there was a video I had last year where I picked up on Blake Snell. I guess ERA was like a 3-something. And I was like, don't look now, but Blake Snell is getting himself in the Cy Young race and the odds aren't reflecting it. So if you listen to that, you would have made some money. So listen to us here. Obviously we're here to help. It doesn't mean we're always right. We're not, but we're more right than some other guys on TV, I think. What a wonderful season. Just Blake Snell, the people just crapping themselves. So they're so pissed at the walks. They're like, he can't be the best pitcher. He walks more than anybody. It's like, what is the objective of a pitcher? And I totally get it. That's a dangerous dance. You better have what Blake Snell has to pull out when you get 2-0, 3-0 or whatever, or two guys on or whatever. But he did it over and over and over again. Well, so, and no joke. I mean, and great topic. So now we switch over to free agents and where would they fall in these odds? So we let's start with Blake Snell. Blake Snell, is he the favorite in either the AL or the NL? Where does he sit if you were going to add him to this mix? I think he'll probably get better odds than I would jump on. I think if because he's already sitting on his team. Yeah, exactly. So I don't think he'll be a guy I would probably put anything on.
Yeah.
But we'll
But
see.
can he?
I
But he
mean,
can do it, right? Like
but if you're talking about flat out, I mean, you always start with the defending guys, but did he show signs of wearing down and not doing that? Now he had the big run, a couple of at the end that weren't in line, but come on, it's Blake Snell. So
it depends where he lands. But I agree with you too on it's about run prevention. If you're going to ding a pitcher like Spencer Strider, who gave up runs but had dominant stuff, you have to be willing then to tip your cap and give a Cy Young to Blake Snell, who not only had dominant stuff, but also limited runs at a ridiculous rate.
ridiculous.
I was a big fan of watching him pitch. So many pitches with very high whiff rates that explains why he was able to pull a Houdini act constantly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, here's a pitch and it's not going to be in the zone a ton, but it's going to get swings or it doesn't. And I'll throw it again and I'll throw it again. And I'll get you. I know that I'm playing a long game. This isn't one pitch at a time. I'm throwing pitches that you can't do anything with, that you kind of want to swing at. And when you roll it up, it's like, damn, I mean, I gave up hardly any runs.
Does that mess you up when you're doing your maps at all? Or you just say, hey, keep doing what you're doing. I see a lot of blue here. And you know what? Don't give in.
No, a guy like that, I don't work with him. But if I did, I would definitely one of his teammates last year got count specific maps. It's like, here's how we're going to work with our pitches and different. And you would see that it's like, it's 0-2, if I bounce one, it doesn't hurt anything, but I'm getting some swings. So you're going to see this like ridiculous blue area out of the zone where you're getting the swings. He's doing that though. When you look at his pitch mix, you can tell like, okay, I know what's up. I've been behind the hitters 2-0 1,000 times in my career. I know what's up, and vice versa. So just changing how you're attacking throughout the count.
I love guys like that because it gets all of us to think about pitching differently too. Because
absolutely,
we're all sitting there going, "Oh, you got to do this. You don't want to walk people, free base runners, blah blah blah." And this guy flipped it on its head and said, "You know what? I trust my stuff so much that I don't care. You can give me 12 base runners and it doesn't make a difference because I'm going to strike people out and eventually someone's going to swing." So I love it. I think he may have discovered inadvertently a new way of pitching for other folks. And there are people that probably can look at that and say, maybe I can be like Blake Snell and do this. And does winning a third Cy Young award mean like you've got to consider him as a Hall of Famer? Because there aren't a lot of people as a three, and that seems not the case with him.
Seems not the case with him.
Yeah.
But
three Cy Youngs talk.
Right. They do. It's interesting to think about him versus Strider because we're sitting there talking about Strider getting the walks down and Snell's walking 60% more or whatever the hell the number is. But what does Snell do when he gets behind or when he walks a guy or whatever? And Strider, like you think he has that pitch, but it's like, yeah, he doesn't though. But not quite have that Snell dagger of like, you're not going to score.
Right. His slider is like that, but he doesn't have a second. So that's what we're talking about. He does have a changeup that gets a lot of whiffs, but he doesn't use it very much.
He needs to use it more.
Right. Exactly. Snell gets a lot of whiffs on his changeup and a lot of whiffs on his slider and a ridiculous amount of whiffs on his curveball and has a fastball you have to respect. So with all that, he's got more weapons that he can mix you up. Where Strider, they're like 1 or 0. Like, I'm going to do this and not do this. If he throws it
exactly.
More, yeah.
Exactly. It's 2-0 or there's 2 on or however Strider's in trouble. And what are you thinking as a batter versus Strider? Granted, look, I don't want to have to hit a 99-mile-an-hour fastball top of the zone, but you're talking about a bit more of a binary choice than Snell, where you're just like, shit, I can't guess because he's got too many pitches and they're all like pretty lethal. And that's what happened. That was the difference.
Exactly.
He got behind everybody. Strider struck out tons more guys in 3 pitches, but Snell's like, I've got him out,
Yeah, right.
Totally. It doesn't matter. It was great. It's interesting to see the innings deficit and be like, I don't know. He only went more than 6 a handful of times or whatever. But yeah, just win, baby. Just keep runs off the board and,
Totally. And then probably the last one we would consider as a Cy Young contender here, I think, unless there's another one. When Yamamoto signs, where does he fall? And where in either league? And can he win it? Like, is he a guy that
let's imagine because we're hearing Dodgers and the Yankees. So let's just imagine.
Yeah, let's
he's
do
sitting
that.
there he's sitting there in the dugout with Cole.
Right.
That's going to be wild. Me personally, man, it'd be really hard not to have him somewhere in the top 5 or 6. Somewhere. I mean,
Like
I just
plus
if I think
1,200 or so, like where Pablo is on the AL.
yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine. Lower down the list. I mean, you sit there and like George Kirby or Yamamoto. I'm like, I got to take Yamamoto. And it's no disrespect to George Kirby at all, but I mean, Yamamoto is so good. Do I have him ahead of Gausman? No, I don't. Again, no surprise.
I think Fromber's too high on this, by the way.
I do too.
I wasn't a fan of those odds. So he's got to be. I mean, I think to me, my instincts are in the Pablo Castillo
3 or 4.
range. Yeah.
So,
and is he somebody that can win it? Yes. I think him being mentored by somebody like Gerrit Cole would be sick, because Cole invests in guys, and Cole wants to win. He's a great baseball mind, and him and Yamamoto sitting together, I view that as another coach. I would love to see that.
It'd be crazy.
Yeah.
I remember when Jameson Taillon was playing with Cole, just like him talking about like how Cole's like going to coach. I hope he does. Yeah. When he's done, and just so smart. NL is a little trickier for me to drop Yamamoto into.
I agree with you. And I think the NL is trickier overall. I mean, but yes, where does he fall there?
I mean, like you personally, Yamamoto or Senga?
I think Senga would say Yamamoto is a better pitcher than he is
what about
general.
Fried or Gallen or
I don't know if you can put him above like Yamamoto. Fried is a pitcher. Yamamoto's a pitcher. Mm-hmm. They both, they're not going to blow you away with ridiculous velo. He throws, he can touch 99, which used to be ridiculous. It's not. Fried has touched 99 in his career. He's not that. He doesn't sit anywhere near that. Yeah, I don't see him winning the Cy Young Award in the NL. I think that's a tough ask with those pitchers there.
Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see the odds when they come out.
And Senga is flashier as far as stuff. Like Senga's Ghost Fork is, I wouldn't expect that from Yamamoto's splitter, although I wouldn't be surprised if he's got a 40-something% whiff rate, maybe even up to 50. 60 is absurd, and nobody did what Senga did. So I don't see that happening. Does he get there with multiple pitches? Can he be in the 35%, 40% range with his curveball too? And his command is really good. So it's not impossible to see him there, but I don't necessarily, that wouldn't be a pick of mine, where I can see him potentially sneaking in and winning something in the AL. And am I looking at that wrong? Am I underestimating the AL pitchers?
No, it's just a different stable,
Yeah.
Just different. I mean, like I say, George Kirby, Louis Castillo, or Yamamoto,
yeah, I mean, I'd have to consider, because Castillo's great. Obviously, I love Kirby. And Yamamoto's a new thing. Could he be? But he also could benefit from being a new thing, which is hitters are going to have a hard time going up against a guy who they haven't seen before, who is a master pitcher. So I think that's a great question, and I can see him contending a little bit more in the AL, and probably not, but definitely for Rookie of the Year, either league, he's somebody you gotta strongly look at, I would think.
Yeah, the projections on Fangraphs had Yamamoto, take him for whatever they're worth. Same WAR next year as Sonny Gray.
Okay.
Yeah, which doesn't sound like wildly wrong or anything.
No, I think
I can see that.
Yeah, and they're usually, obviously they're usually off by some percentage, and if he does better than that. But yeah, considering him as like a Sonny Gray type isn't a bad thing, and we considered Sonny Gray though as a potential dark horse Cy Young.
Yeah, what about Jordan Montgomery?
Right.
I mean,
I know something about him doesn't. Yeah, right.
It's the same thing with me.
Yeah.
Like there's something missing there, but because is he going to make 32 starts? You wouldn't be shocked.
Right.
That's a lot of the battle right there.
Yeah. And he'll be somewhere in the running if he does. But is he going to win it? I find it hard. He's not a guy I consider to be a potential contender every year, but he
No,
has
no,
stuff that can do it.
Yeah, I should be clear. Let's see what odds he gets. So he
Yeah.
in there. If he pops in there at 8,000 or something, like, yeah, you should probably jump on that.
Right. Oh yeah, great point.
Because I bet you he has soft odds when he comes out.
I think that's right. I do think he gets overlooked. Exactly. And I think I'm overlooking him too. A little bit. I'm not giving him the credit. I'm trying to see, is anybody else we've missed? I think we're doing pretty well. I always think Reed Detmers at some point is going to put it together and have
he
a
had
big
good
year.
numbers, right?
Yeah.
We haven't seen these are going to be, these might be long shots on the odds when they come out, but when Stroh lands with someone or even Giolito, who bounced around and had some wild, he was all over the place last year, but that guy works hard. He's entering a time of his life where, you could see his best season next year. So
yeah, I'm seeing a lot of guys I wouldn't bet on though on the
again,
AL. I think it's much more limited in the AL for people that that have chances. So yeah, I think that's a good breakdown, and we'll do this again as we get closer to season. It's obviously really early. Things are going to change. Stay tuned. Make sure to follow Mr. Fisher on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling that platform at Codify. Are you at Codify Baseball? Is that right? I don't even look
Codify
anymore.
Baseball.
Yeah, I don't
Codify.
Codify.
Hey, but don't wait to bet on these because you could pay for your Christmas next year.
Abso-freaking-lutely. And that's our job. Like, we are not Grinches. We are here to be the Santas and to give all the good boys and girls out there some great knowledge on pitching. So, hey, it's great as always. Thank you for coming. And make sure to hit subscribe and make sure to follow Mr. Fisher.
Take care, guys.